Thanks for tuning in to the resurgence of the African Mind Book Club, where we seek to liberate African minds with one unit of work at a time. Our current text is The Blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson. All right, today we are going to continue our discussion on chapter 14, Race and Economics. Last week we covered pages, I want to say page 307 to the top of 329, and we discussed social relations in economics, ethnic cultural identity in economics, global economic network of the ethnic Chinese. We also discussed Quinzai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Quinzai, which means relationships and connections. And I believe it's either Japanese or Korean. I don't know which one.
Korean.
It's in Quinzai, which means connections and relationships, economic power of social relationships. And we ended the discussion with talking about the Koreans. Dr. Amos Wilson gave a cursory review of the Koreans and how they were able to amass economic power and also political power. Now, I just want to remind you guys that on page 142, so this is earlier in Blueprint for Black Power, page 142 is, I'm trying to see what chapter this is, chapter 7.
Class, race, and power.
Yes. So in chapter 7, he referred to as the Koreans as an articulated tribe. And I want to read the definition to you guys. It's at the bottom of page 143. He says that an articulated tribe may be best represented by any one of a number of immigrant groups. For example, the Korean Americans. In this instance, we have a group organized around cohesive families and kinship groups, land or communities, and confederations with formal power organizations extending beyond family ties. This articulate nature of these groups devolves from their high levels, I had this underlined, their high levels of group and cultural identity, group and class consciousness, racial ethnic exclusiveness,
right,
their relatively high level of intra-group cooperativeness and self-sufficiency, economic assertiveness, and monopolistic business practices. Their concentrated populations with an informal leadership establishment generally composed of highly respected or regarded individuals whose authority rests on their power to persuade, influence, and organize their followers. All right. So he calls them an articulated, and he refers to, at the top of page 139, he refers to the African American community as a diffuse tribal grouping, okay? Meaning that, that we're not a cohesive group. So he says that the African American community at this juncture in history is essentially a diffuse tribal grouping. This implies that it exhibits a number of inadequate, relatively weak, poorly focused and organized power organizations, which extend beyond family ties and community groups. Its sense of self-identity, self-awareness, and African-centered consciousness is unstable, tenuous, and basically reactionary, meaning that its self-definition is arrived at more by fault than by considered intent, more by its marginalization from and domination by the white nation, than by a proactive, proud form of self-expression and self-actualization. He says it therefore operates around relatively low levels of group and cultural identity, group and class consciousness. Its racial ethnic boundaries are extremely porous and over-inclusive. Its relatively low level of intragroup cooperativeness, mutual support, and self-sufficiency. Its economic dependency, relatively low level of entrepreneurial drive and accomplishment, and lack of control of any economic niches. And I could go on and on and on, but the purpose of me reading this is because tonight he's going to reiterate some of these things in this chapter on race and economics. In fact, last week when we discussed race and economics, Dr. Amos Wilson and Sister Alima and myself, we were laughing at, the ancestors saying how he's very repetitive because he wants to make sure that he, sinks this information in, and he wants to make sure that we get it. But he drives home that, we lack economic power, okay, which in turn means that we'll lack, political power. So he's saying that we're very powerless. We are a very powerless people because we lack a strong ethnicity, we lack a strong group identity, and we lack a strong group consciousness. And those are necessary characteristics to amass economic power and to amass political power. And that's what we talked about last week. My name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Dr. Oya. I usually greet you with words of peace. But today, Sister Alima and Brother T, I want to say Harambe, which means let's pull together in Swahili, or Abidi Fahode, which means, African liberation. I'm really, Sister Alima, I'm like, I feel like we need to get free or die trying. Harriet Tubman State of Mind 2018. So I'm tired of peace. No, Harambe, Abidi Fahode, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and let the panel introduce themselves.
Peace and love, family. It's Lily La Poete Speaks, aka Alima Engine. Thank you for joining us, as Dr. Maat says, on another edition of the RAM Book Club. Of course, as you know, you can get the links here to join us on the panel or to be in the discussion from my website, lilylapoetespeaks.com. I will share that for you in just a second. I am the author of Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1, family. You can find that, as well as the links, as I have stated, at lilylapoetespeaks.com. Can you see my screen, family?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so when you go over to the page, you just come over here, family, to the RAM Book Club. You can go down, you click on Blueprint for Black Power, and then you scroll down to the appropriate chapter, family, and then you will just grab the link that is the one that you wish to use. While you're here, you can subscribe if you have yet to subscribe, and you can get, updates to the blog, and get updates to the newsletter. You can also head over to the marketplace and you can check out some things there. You can also get caught up on some of the other blogs, family, if you haven't. And you can go over to my personal page, which I gotta remember to plug in. Go over to my personal page as well, family. Lafiani, you can go over there and check that out as well. Once again, I'm Lily La Poete Speaks, and I'm going to give the mic over to Brother T.
Hey, family, how you doing? This is Johnson Toe speaking. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about chapter 14 with the panel. Hope everyone has a wonderful week. We're ready to do some work.
Indeed.
All right, sis, you wanna start it off, Sister Alima? We missed you last week, sis.
Yes, I know. I felt out of place because I wasn't up here and I couldn't. I said, Lord.
I was trying, T was jumping in. We were trying to hold it down, sis, but we definitely missed your presence. And we missed your presence, your energy, your perspective that you bring.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy that you're back. I'm happy that you and the hubby had, a wonderful trip down in South Carolina. How were the workshops, sis?
It was really good. The lectures were great. We got to learn some good Orisha songs, and we learned some good information. It was just a good cultural time. It was good family time. You know what I mean? Just good, wholesome family time. There's a lot of good things out there to buy. It was just really fun. It really was. No drama, no nothing. Just learning and family and food. And
Yes.
Don't get no better than that.
Yes, and I know that now Brother Black Panther did a presentation on ancestral veneration, right?
Yes.
And it's on is it on his website or is it on his YouTube page?
The full one is on my page.
Right, you did a live stream, right?
Right, I did the live scene. So the full one, which is Baba Laulu and Brother Panther, both of those are on my page.
Okay.
I mean, the full one. Now on his page, if you just want to see his, he does have, I think it's on his YouTube channel now.
Okay.
If people want to check his out.
Yeah, I know he tagged me.
That's Black Panther on YouTube, family. BLAK, I think. Panther.
Okay.
PANTHA.
Got you. Okay. So it's BLAK and then Panther PANTHA.
Right.
All right, there it is. So we need to check out that video on ancestral.
Yes, it's powerful, good information.
Absolutely. I already know he always bring it. So I'm not even, I'm not even surprised, sis. He always bring the culture. But all right, so we can continue. Last week now I'm telling y'all, we're going to go through 20 pages tonight, family. So, bear with us. I don't think that it's going to be a lengthy discussion because there's only 3 of us on the panel versus, usually it's like 6 or 7 of us. Am I breaking up, Sister Alima?
It was just a tiny bit, but I think it's been kind of sluggish because I can see my screen is sluggish.
Okay. But yeah, bear with us, family. We're going to run through about 20 pages. This is going to be a powerful 20 pages because I mean, what Dr. Amos Wilson did was he examined other successful economic groups, the Koreans and the Asians, and he even went through, I think he mentioned the Arabs, and he's teaching us, how they operate and showing us the common thread. And the common thread is that all of them have strong ethnic ties, strong family ties. They believe in solidarity. They believe in preserving their culture. They believe in preserving their identity, even in the midst of being in this American culture. So, I mean, he goes through that and he's saying, look, these are the ingredients, for economic power, thus political power. So these are going to be powerful pages. Bear with us. We're going to get through it. Let's begin, sis, at the top of page 329. The section is entitled The Ethnic Road to Riches.
Yes.
So if you could start.
Yes, The Ethnic Road to Riches. Okay, Queen. So Robert Dahl, he gives us definition here of solidarity. He says that solidarity is the capacity of a member of one segment of society to evoke support from others who identify him as like themselves because of similarities in occupation, social standing, religion, ethnic origin, or racial stock. And then Wrong in 88 says that the most obvious collective resources are those created by the pooling of individual resources for employment in the service of common aim. And that goes to speak to just what you were just saying, Dr. Maat, that is a lot of times the basis, the start of how family businesses are began is from pooling resources together, and then on top of that, aside from pulling resources together, which of course we're going to get to, but then you also have to, be willing to help to build up that business for a certain amount of time. And then of course they put the family members on, and then the next family opens up the next business, and then that's how they keep it flowing.
Absolutely.
But pooling the resources definitely is key. So going a little bit further down to the paragraph at the bottom, according to the U.S. Bureau of Census data, the number of Asian American owned businesses increased by 989.3% between 82 and 87. The rate for all U.S. businesses during the same period was only 14%. Comparatively, the rate of growth for Latino-owned businesses for the period was 80%, women-owned businesses 50%, African-American-owned businesses a paltry 38%. So as you see, certain periods where a lot of other ethnic races were soaring, we had some growth, but nowhere near compared to definitely, i.e. the Asian Americans, because that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Have that much of an increase, you know what I mean? In such a short amount of time, like that's unbelievable. In numbers wise, what does it say here? So they went from 187,691 to 355,000 busices. And that's in what says a 5-year span. Like that's insane.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. It really is. But and then okay, well, we're gonna get there because I wanted to say so much, but I don't want to say too early.
I know, sis. I know. I mean, these 20 pages had me fired up. When I read them, you know what I mean. It had me fired up, for the good. Made me feel like we gotta get to work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's all I have for that page. If anyone needs to expound, we can go to the next page.
Now let's go. Let's roll.
All right. So now we're getting to the subsection Korean entrepreneurial success. And here they're talking about that how small the Korean population is in relative to, of course, the much larger Black community. And there's more of us. And we actually bring in more, of course, revenue because there's more of us, but they own more businesses. And it's just nowhere near as many of them as it is of us. And I think that speaks volumes. But right here it says as early as 1980, Koreans in LA, as reported by the U.S. Census Bureau, were engaged nearly 3 times more frequently in entrepreneurship than were non-Koreans. At that time, about 62% of Koreans in Los Angeles were either self-employed or employees of Korean-owned firms. So I found that interesting. So either they work for themselves or they work for each other. Like, so there's no getting around that. So we're not going to go work for the outside. We're going to either work by ourselves, and then, people, they can work for us, or we're going to work for each other. And I just think that's amazing.
Absolutely, sis. And see, I was down at College Park with brother Haki a few weeks ago, and there was a panel. I wasn't on the panel. There were three college professors from Howard University on the panel. But sis, I so wanted, and I know that brother Hakeem's organized another panel, and I'm gonna ask him. I definitely want to get on it to speak to some of those young folks. And I spoke to some of them after the event, and I was telling the ones that I spoke to there is that I said we got to redefine successes to our children. In the average Black household, we think that success is going to school, obtaining your degree, whether it's a high school diploma, a college degree, whatever. Get your degree, go out here and get a good job. That's success in the Black community. So when I was talking to the I don't want to call them kids, these were young adults. When I was talking to the young adults after the session, I was telling them, get your degree and go build a business. You get what I'm saying? Pull your resource together, build a business, think of a product or service, and go out there and establish a business. We got to stop encouraging our children to go get jobs and to go work for other people and act as if that's success. That's not success. And so we have to essentially redefine what success is. A lot of people say, oh, success is subjective, because what's success, what you define as success may not be success. No, we need this as a collective say, look, success is going out here, learning skills, getting knowledge and coming back and building something in your community. That needs to be a collective, a definition of success. But you know what? That goes into our culture, right?
That's right.
Because our culture tells you what success is.
That's right.
And in our culture, so it goes back. I remember Zaza Ali said recently, we need a whole cultural overhaul. You get what I'm saying? And I agree with that, sister. We do need a cultural overhaul, because these Koreans are brought up in a culture that teaches them to work for themselves or to go get a business. That's a part of their culture, so we need to also institute that as part of our Black culture or African.
You have to look at it in a sense. You have to ask the child, ask the student, do you have a sense of family? I'm sorry, a sense of individualism, family, or community? Because that will define their success and their efforts in order to produce and keep going the individual, the family, or the community. And I think they don't have a sense of it. So when you say what is success, they have no idea. Only the individual being an individual. So, and that's what their parents may have teach them. But we have to teach our kids the sense of understanding, being great for yourself, but being great for your family and your community. And community at large needs these businesses to thrive. Because in the sense of the Koreans, I'm sure, and I'm just assuming, but by the literature and by the data, it shows that their sense of being individuals, meaning they do exactly what they need to do in order to produce great communities and great business. So it's all about, they understand that it's not just me, it's just not my family, it's for all of us.
Absolutely.
And we have to get out the idea it's about us and maybe about the few that's in our household, and we could think about it. This on a smaller scale. You live in your communities. How many of your neighbors you know? How many of your neighbors you communicate with and connect with?
Right.
And how can you tell that person, I want to do something for us? They look like you half crazy. I don't know you. Our kids don't know that there's a community at large, and we need to start linking them to that ideal.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you, brother. Let's keep rolling, sis. Korean entrepreneurial success.
Okay, well, that's what I had highlighted on that particular page. On this page, afterwards, he just goes on to talk about the expansion of the Koreans and how the immigrants, their presence grew And of course, as their presence grew, their business ownership grew as well.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. So at the bottom, he talks about banks in the Asian immigrant community. All right. And so, I found this quite interesting. I'm gonna read a little bit to you. He's talking about the banks in the banks in the Asian immigrant community. So he's talking about this area in New York City called Flushing, Queens. All right. So I'm going to the top of page 331, where he says that this Asian neighborhood altogether contains at least 35 banks: American, Chinese, Korean, British, Indian, Pakistani, and Colombian. The Times went on to report that in the first 2 weeks of opening, the Chinese Trust Branch Bank took in $6 million from 400 depositors. Referring to the ethnic basis of his branch success, the local manager of the China Trust Branch is reported to have stated that Chinese people have a lot of savings. They will come to us because we are Chinese. Chinese people are traditionally shy. They won't talk to strangers. All right. But I understand what Baba was saying here. He's saying that they simply, went to this bank because it was owned by other Chinese people.
Right.
I get it. I'm looking at Harbor Bank in Baltimore City, right? I mean, Baltimore County, Baltimore City.
That's only one.
Yeah, it's one in both. The headquarters is downtown, Brother T. And they have another branch right up here around the corner from my house.
Meaning that's the only black bank we have in Baltimore. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And so all of us should be banking there. You know what I mean? But instead you got black folks that's with Bank of America. You got some of them with M&T. Some of them are with Wells Fargo. I went to Harbor Bank because I heard that it's a black owned bank. You know what I mean? The same way the Chinese, but I'm saying we as a collective need to adopt that mentality and say, I'm going to go bank here because it's black, or I'm going to go spend my money here because it's black, So anyway, I want to continue. He says a new Chinatown grows in Brooklyn. It says Flushing, Queens hosts the second Chinatown in New York City. The original and the most famous Chinatown is located in Manhattan. Now, New York City, Brooklyn, to be specific, is to host a new and third Chinatown, okay? At the bottom of page 331, he says that the arrival of the Chinese in this neighborhood typifies New York's settlement by immigration. Illegal Chinese immigrants first came looking for cheap housing in commuting distance of Manhattan sweatshops. The Chinese American investors gradually bought property and advertised rentals in Chinese language newspapers. More illegal immigrants arrived. After looking for Chinese speaking landlords, sweatshops followed the workforce as did stores. 8th Avenue's once empty storefronts began to fill with Chinese American appliance stores, bakeries, hairdressers, restaurants, even herbal pharmacies. All right. So hold up. Where did I stop? I think I continued. All right. But see, I thought about when I read this paragraph, I thought about these dollar homes that they have here in Baltimore City, dilapidating communities, and how we can buy up some of these homes. You get what I'm saying, T? Invest back in and build ourselves a black business district. So that's what they did. They went to the boarded up home, the impoverished places. They went to the where they could buy cheap housing. They started buying up the housing, and then they turned that neighborhood into a business district. So anyway, it says the transition hasn't been trouble-free. Along with sweatshops, the Chinese have brought gangs and tensions with old timers, but today, bright Chinese lettered signs dominate the avenue, replacing graffiti. Cantonese rock music blares. A dozen minibus services, many improperly registered. Shuttle fares to Manhattan's Chinatown at $1.50 a ride. Of course, it was published, 22 years ago, so it's more than that now. Last year, Taiwan-controlled China Trust Bank and Chinese-owned Abacus Federal Savings Bank opened branches in a neighborhood that hadn't had one for years. So it says, according to the U.S. Census Bureau data in the Northeast, so he's talking about the African American population in the area. He said it's approximately 4 times larger than that of the Chinese. All right. Says in 1989, the estimated total per capita income of Asians in the tri-state area, including New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, was roughly 17 to 20 billion compared to 62 to 70 billion for blacks. The bulk of the population for both black and Chinese reside in the New York City metropolitan area. Now I have this underlined. He says, yet the Chinese have been able to establish solid and economical viable communities there, while blacks have not established a single one. The difference undoubtedly has to do in great part with differences in ethnic identity. There we go. Ethnic identity and consciousness, as well as ethnic-based values and solidarity. There's that word, values and solidarity. They're very proactive, that's another word, proactive presence of these orientations in the Chinese, and their relatively reactionary presence in blacks go far in explaining the economic growth and development of the Chinese community compared with the relative economic stagnation of the black community, even though the black community is far older and contains social and economic resources on the whole than its Chinese counterpart. So I want to end with a quote that he did on the journal, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic. It says that the journal noted the extremes to which the ethnic Chinese were willing to go in order to establish a stable social and economic community for themselves. It reported that Chinese community leaders acknowledged that Chinese prefer to patronize one another. So they have a preference to patronize each other. They say, which is helping to drive some non-Chinese shopkeepers out of business. Chinese landlords also sometimes evict Hispanic tenants illegally to put in Chinese. The journal goes on to report that the neighborhood has become more prosperous. This is primarily the result of well-known Chinese frugality and ethnic chauvinism. This virtually assures Chinese merchants and financial institutions that they will be, for all practical purposes, sole beneficiaries of Chinese consumer spending and wealth. So Chinese merchants know, okay, that the sole beneficiaries of Chinese consumer spending and wealth will be Chinese people. So they know that they could depend on their people. It says that the following quote from the journal attests to the assertion: poor-looking Chinese people will walk off in the street and deposit $50,000 in cash.
Wow.
Says Carl Chen, who runs the local China Trust Bank branch. You can't tell anything by looking at them. And I wrote a little comment next to this statement. I said, not us. We would rather be on the bus stop with Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Ferragamo belts and Michael Jordan sneakers. You know, we want to look good. We want to look the part and not be the part.
Boy,
You get what I'm saying?
2017 Benz apartment.
Right, sis. And broke, and you don't own the Benz. I know a friend, you know, she used to be a friend of mine, but you know, oh well, but she drives a Lexus, and she got people think she's styling and profiling, and she's broke. She's broke. You know, but looking at she got Gucci bags, Louis bags, and you know, a Lexus, and so you would think she had it all together, but she doesn't. You get what I'm saying? Right. And so we got to get out of that this mentality that, you know, we rather, you know, look wealthy instead of be wealthy. You get what I'm saying? You know, but that goes back to the fact that we've been induced with distorted values. We've been taught to value that stuff. You know what I mean? So, but you go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic, sis.
Doctor,
Let's pass it to Brother T.
All right, Brother T.
Dr. Maat,
is what racism?
Is that racism? Because the Koreans don't want to do business with nobody else, and they moving out people out of their communities to put theirs in. Is that racism?
Racist.
I mean, because when we say this to our people, they say we can't be racist.
Yep.
I mean, they do anything and say anything just to not band together. Like, you know, the ancestor made some perfect points there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everyone else knows how to keep their community up and up, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I had to ask that question. Maybe. What page you end off, sis?
We at the
right
top.
Here at
She said, "Is that racist?"
Other immigrant success stories, right, sis?
Yep.
What page? Because I want to.
333.
Okay, because I want to bub a little bit. Gotcha. Awesome. Top of 333. So I'm going to talk about the other immigrant success stories. All right, we're just going to start there. In front page article titled "Ethnic Road to Riches." The New York Times reported the illustrative story of Parmik Singh, a Punjabi who left his job as a mechanic on a Greek-owned ship in 1981, and he settled in New York City. There he met a fellow Punjabi who owned a gas station, who taught him how to run one as well. Wow. It said, but 1990, Mr. Singh and an Indian partner owned 13 gas stations in the New York City area.
Wow.
This man just came off the boat, and in less than 9 years, they own 13 gas stations.
That's right.
After someone took the time out to teach him how to run one.
Right.
Amazing. So we go on to say Mr. Singh and his partner has competitors. However, chiefly other Punjabi Sikhs who began buying and working in gas stations in the city at the same time he did, some of whom own as many as 40. Moreover, about 40% of the city's filling stations are run and owned by South Asians. Wow. I mean, that's just a story on how people band together.
That's right.
And wouldn't it be amazing if we could do the same thing just on the corner store level, or someone teaching someone from the community that supports them on a daily basis, how they run a business, how to keep books, how they can get their own, instead of looking at them as serious competition and running them away. Just little things like that helps out. Going on to page 333, the Afghan refugees. One of the smallest groups of refugees in the New York City area, the Afghans, numbering less than 4,000, almost all war refugees, own more than 200 fast food chicken restaurants, lacking their high education, trade skills, and having little knowledge of English. Afghans have become specialists in the fast food chicken business. To circumvent language and discrimination barriers, even the carpenters and chicken suppliers they use are Afghans. One Afghan owns as many 40 and franchise fried chicken restaurants, all named Kennedy Fried Chicken. They've been around that long?
Wow.
Kennedy Fried Chicken is here in Baltimore, right?
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure if it still is.
Wow. The owner, when asked how he and other Afghans so recently arrived in New York City have succeeded in fast food business, replied that he and other established immigrants undertake to lead new arrivals by the hand through the business and teach the intricacies of running a business. It's like a formula.
You heard that? That's powerful. He said it's like it's a formula.
It is a
formula. Let's go.
He said it's like a formula. He was reported to have said, well, tell them how to get to the building department, how to save money by cutting and installing their own bulletproof glass. He went on to say, you have to have some connection with somebody to succeed. You have to have some connection with somebody to succeed.
I hear you, bro.
We all know each other. When the new ones come to the store, they sit, they watch, they learn, and then they work. I'm just going to say that again. When the new ones come to the store, they sit, they watch, they learn, and then they work. So they're allowed to come in and watch.
That's right.
They're allowed to soak it all in and then go do it. No one feels threatened. It's just the formula. This is how we get ahead. 4,000 started. But each one of those come in, they have a business. That's amazing. All right, at the bottom of 333, thriving where others won't go. The Dominicans. Here we go. The Dominicans in New York City are well known for many grocery stores they own in the ghetto. The ghetto neighborhoods, along with numerous other types of business. However, their success has not only been marked by their ownership of small grocery stores, but their increasingly rapid ownership of supermarkets as well. These stores are located in areas, Black and Latino ghettos, abandoned by national supermarket chains such as A&P. According to the New York Times, January 7th, 1992, report about half of the 167 stores the Seatown Supermarket Group owns in New York City area are owned by Dominicans. Wow, 167 stores. In addition, at the time of the publication of this report, the owners of some 32 Bravo supermarkets were almost entirely Dominicans. Moreover, the Times reported that the Dominican grocery store owner, who succeeds as well as Mr. Diaz, who owns a supermarket in Harlem, have followed a quick but steep route to six-figure incomes, often planning their stores in tough neighborhoods where major chains have pulled out or seldom ventured. This entrepreneurialism has permitted the region's Dominicans to sell more than $1 billion worth of groceries a year.
Wow.
That's why I wanted to read that over to the bottom. That's what kind of knocked me out when I read it. They bought all the land. All people who wind up leaving and didn't want to go, all the majors, instead of African Americans saying, you know what, let's put these markets in our store and let us run it and benefit. Another group saw it as an opportunity, put in supermarkets, small markets. We've all been in New York, so we've seen them little small new supermarkets they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at them, they are Dominicans and Afghans, but $1 billion worth of groceries a year. And it's amazing.
And brother,
you know what all this makes me think about though? When I
That's
really sit back and think about what is the missing dynamic, because it's not that a lot of us don't have businesses, right? Because many Black people have businesses, maybe not necessarily in a group setting, like a lot of these communities are set up, you know, they live in the same area, their businesses are in the same area. But I think one of the biggest dynamics which hinders us in able to have this so-called formula is that we lack the support that these businesses get. So in order for you can have the formula all you want, but you need the support. You need the consumers. And our issue is that we don't get the support. So we are everyone else's support. We're everyone else's bread and butter. But when it comes to us, we don't get that same reciprocation from other races. So I think that's also a bigger hindrance for us that we have to overcome.
As Dr. Claude Anderson said, I know he said in one of his lectures that when the husband and wife husband and wife get dressed to go out to dinner, they're not going to Chinatown, or they're not going into, to a Black restaurant to eat. They go to their own establishments. But when we get up and dress up and go out, we're going to their establishments,
right,
and spending big money. So you hit the nail on the head with that. But it just amazes me that we don't look at it that way. I think sometimes we won't support each other. We're scared to support each other. We don't want to see. Some of us don't want to see others get ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be. Oh, cut my camera on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like the only person. I know Sister Alima over there grubbing, so that's why she cut it off.
I'm trying to finish his food, y'all. I'm over here eating. Hold on. Let me eat.
No, but and what I also noticed when you were reading Brother T is that these groups will get in a particular industry and then they'll dominate the industry. Like, so for example, when you were reading about the Afghans, 200 fast food chicken restaurants. You know what I mean? Somebody, I know with Asians, it was the cleaners. I know in Baltimore, you go to the cleaners, it's an Asian person there. If you go to a beauty supply store, it's an Asian person there. So what I noticed is that these foreigners come over here, they pull their resources together, and they buy up, property, or they get into these businesses, and then they'll dominate like that particular industry. You know what I mean? So I noticed
that allows them to dominate if you sit down and think about it, right? Because where they are buying is cheap property, and they realize that with that cheap in these neighborhoods they have people that would support it, because some of these people can go out to other communities, so they thrive right here. Like, I think I read an article like this week, I believe, and it said that 35% of businesses in Baltimore are Black owned, and I thought that was pretty good, 35%. But you had to question what type of business, and if 35%, you ask what type of business, you have to say, are they some of the same competing businesses?
Right.
Are they
Exactly.
barbershops? Are they beauty salons? Are they nails? I don't know. But how are they building on each other? And are they working together in order to build a bigger network? And that's what I think Sister Alima was going to as well. Like,
Right.
they're not really helping each other out. They're just individual business.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
no way.
Let me tell y'all what's going on right here in Randallstown. So a husband and wife opened up a business called Collins Seafood Restaurant. If you go to Google and you type in Collins Seafood Restaurant, Baltimore, it should pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Husband and wife opened up. Collins is the name of their firstborn son. All right. Beautiful business, great food, a lot of clientele. Guess what happened?
What happened?
Another Black family opened up a restaurant 2 doors down.
Yep.
Why would you do that? You know
that's what I'm saying.
About it with the same type of food. Now it ain't just. It's not like they had Collins Seafood and then it was a vegan restaurant.
I say, why not be different type of food though?
It's the same damn food. Why would you do that to? And that goes back to what you and Brother T was saying about how we're so, how we think individualistically.
That's
what I mean? Because if you had a communal mindset, you would say, well, hold up. I know that the brothers, the brother and sister, they opened up a business here, they selling seafood. Let me switch up, my type of food and put, maybe a vegan or vegetarian restaurant there or something else. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The same type of food. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a damn picture when I go around there tomorrow and show you guys. So, I'm just being, completely 100 with you. Same damn food, sis. 2 doors up.
I don't get it.
I remember a good friend of mine set me down one time some years ago. And he says, T, let me show you something. And he walked me around McCullough Street where I live, and it was barbershops everywhere. He says, look, there's 4 barbershops in a sub spot. So he says, what if this was a Jewish community? And just think, he says, just follow me. You have a deli, and then next door you have somewhere that the people who own the deli can get the meats. And he said, then we have a bakery.
That's how you do it.
Community now
That's how
has
you do it.
options, and each business can thrive off each other.
Off the next, exactly.
No one's competing.
That's how you set it up. That's that's the basis to as a communal thinking. Because when you like you're explaining, Brother T, that's a community setup.
Right.
That's something they did together. That didn't just happen accidentally. That's by design.
Right.
It really is. Like we have to think that way. That makes perfect sense. And then I also when you talked about the different types of businesses that we have, that made me think of that too. I think about the types of businesses that we invest in, the type of businesses that we have. We don't have those type of businesses that are, in general, we don't have the type of businesses that are really, really needed. You know what I'm saying? Like the barbershop, don't get me wrong. Yes, it's needed. Yes, hair shop. Okay, yes, people have to get their hair done, but we don't own our grocery stores. We don't own the gas stations. You know what I'm saying? We don't own the little stores like little Dollar Generals or little things like that, little convenience stores, like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We don't own those type of businesses that we know people will always need and that we can pass it on down to our children, because your daughter might not want your hair salon. She might not be interested in that. She might not have time for that. That's not her passion. But if you got a grocery store, okay, well, that's something everyone's going to need, even her. She's even going to need groceries. You see what I'm saying? So I think we got to think about that more so when we open businesses, as opposed to opening what it is we really like and start thinking about what we really need.
If you look into a neighborhood, into a community, and see what an actual need, you'll start thinking that way. Instead of saying, okay, let's open up a barbershop. Another this, how many barbershops you need in the Black community? Well, I don't know. You see, I don't really care. But I'm just saying, so it's just how many you actually need. We have to look at exactly what we need in our communities, and then we fill that need. But
absolutely, and I just want to say this, and I mean, sis, I don't mean to be, an ass when I say this. I'm so tired of another t-shirt store in
Sis,
Baltimore City.
me and Ben was talking about the same thing.
Everybody have a damn, what you doing? I got t-shirts. I got, like, I mean, and it's like, sis, I don't mean to be harsh.
It's a
but
hustle
I'm
mentality.
tired of a damn t-shirt. I got the print machine over here. I got the transfers over here. I'm with you, sis. That's why I appreciate Freedom Paper Company, brother Amos. Please support that brother. Brother Amos, you can go to freedompapercompany.com. The brother has toilet paper, tissue. I put them on my Facebook page. Toilet paper, tissue paper, paper towels, trash bags, latex gloves. That's where we get our stuff from in our household. Freedom Paper Company. Please support True Laundry Detergent. You can go to True. I don't know, it's called true.com, or I forgot the name of the website. It's on my webpage. That's where we get our laundry detergent. Hold up, sis, and let me show you, because I know people say, Dr. Maat, she say she got all this stuff. Hold on, let me show you, sis. Let me show you. I keep it funky, sis.
That's right.
Hold on, let me show you. I think my True Laundry Detergent is in the back of my car because I just did laundry. Yesterday. So, I had their paper towels, sis.
Yeah.
I had their paper towels. I had their toilet paper, and I know I left it's in my car, the True Laundry Detergent. But I never recommend products that I don't invest in myself, products that I don't utilize myself. So we got to start supporting ourselves. We can't keep running to Todd and Scott and Charming and all of these other people who don't invest anything in the Black community.
That's right.
And we need like Freedom Paper Company. We need paper towels. We need toilet paper. We need household goods, household appliances, furniture. Somebody that makes furniture. Somebody that creates carpets. We need that stuff.
I mean, everything on a mass scale. And you make a perfect point. Like we need toilet paper. We need all those goods. And we have businesses that do that in a massive way. Then it will be beneficial to our communities.
Yes, it would.
So, so supermarkets and other big things that we need, but we do create a lot of smaller things, the T-shirts and all all the little gadgets and stuff. But we need the big things, and we need to focus on that. So it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. So look, I found this interesting, Brother T, on page 334, where he says, where Hispanic merchants thrive. It says, creating, maintaining, and serving ethnocultural identity and taste provide the fundamental basis for economic growth and development of any particular ethnocultural community. So in this particular section, he's talking about the Hispanic merchants and how they go in and how they boarded up, abandoned storefronts.
Right.
He said, in life, so they go in, they buy up. It seems like it's the same
formula every time.
Every time, whether you're examining the Afghanis, whether you're talking about the Asians, whether you're talking about the Hispanics, the formula is this: go into the neighborhood, buy the property for cheap, start moving your people in, start building your businesses, spend with each other. That's the formula. It's no calculus involved. Look, sis, no derivatives, no integrals, no algebra, right? It's a simple formula. Instead, sis, it's like we want to chase that damn American dream. We want to leave our communities. We want to move out and live beside the white folks. We want the white people.
If we're going to start leaving our communities, then do what the hell they do. Gentrify their shit. If we're gonna leave and you want to build a liquor store too, then go put your liquor store right over there beside the Asian man's liquor store and shut his shit down, and then eventually phase out all the liquor from yours and turn it into something else. But anyway, you see what I'm trying. My point is, if you're going to compete, then go in a place where you can compete and possibly take that business. Don't go in an area where you're going to compete and step on your fellow brothers and sisters' toes. And I was sitting here thinking while we was talking, and I was thinking about pricing and how a lot of times we have to charge a little bit more for our merchandise and things like that. But then I was thinking, well, if we had more of a communal sense where we actually set up businesses and discuss these type of things together, then we would be an understanding that, like, hey, you guys, we're all pooling our resources together. We're all going to support each other's businesses. We know the first couple years is going to be a little bit more expensive until we get to the point where, we're making some money. So when we have those types of things in mind, we already understand that dynamic. We understand where we're starting from, and we know where we're trying to go, and then maybe we wouldn't look at it so much as, oh, I'm not spending with this. I'm not doing that. Because that's what we hear a lot. That's like the general argument. And I think that if we understood certain things more and worked together more, and even also with the business owners, be willing to know that, you may have to come down a little bit and not make a profit, maybe initially your first year or two, as you're trying to build up, even as people support you, just working more in a communal sense.
I agree with that, sis. I think that's a wonderful idea. Like you said, if we sit down and talk about it, like you both said, we go into the community and assess the needs. What do we need? Okay, we need a convenience store.
Right.
We need the dry cleaners.
Right. We need a laundromat.
We need a laundry. Right.
Right.
And just really, yes, assess the needs of the community and start building. And sis, I gotta be honest with you. And people may look at me funny. Oh, Dr. Maat said that. I will go into the neighborhoods and work with those brothers, if you know what I'm talking about. Yo, let's get this popping over here
and get it done. That's right. Yes.
Like, I love the Nation of Islam here in Baltimore. I was talking to Captain Andrew Muhammad just yesterday, and he said they grabbed the little kids from around the way and they employ them and pay them to go clean up the alleys and stuff like that in the neighborhood.
That's right.
They were the ones working at the convenience store, managing the laundromat or the cleaner. Put them out there. You get what I'm saying, sis?
I mean, it's all in the way that we think. You know what I'm saying? I never forget. Let me give y'all an example real quick. I remember when I was about 14, 15, and my mother, it was a little boy in the neighborhood, and he was going around trying to sell something for something. But the thing was, he was trying to buy something, and my mother's thing was, well, I need my grass cut, so you can cut the grass, you know what I'm saying? And then you can cut my grass on the regular. And then that's some money you can make. And then she was telling him, and then maybe possibly you can cut some of the other neighbor's grass. And then you can have you a little business, and this is what you do. You know what I'm saying? Do you know his mother was insulted? She said, like, I'm not going to have my son out there begging people for money. I'm like, begging? So he can go door to door literally begging for money, but he can't start up his own business and work and make an earning for his money? Like, this is the mentality that we have. But if he went out begging someone to hire him, then that'd be great. And he would have done a great thing. It's just confusing.
Yeah. Him going out and like you said, sis, it was cutting grass. It was beneath her.
Right.
Right. I don't want but I would go out here and have my son write a fancy resume and apply for the job application over here, but not him start his own business. That's what I mean by us redefining what success means.
Yes, Queen.
We have to redefine what it means to be successful, and it has to be in that definition. It has to consist of, what am I trying to say, sis? When we redefine success, it has to include, coming back to the community and building the community.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? It has to be a benefit to the community.
That's
you
right.
Getting your six-figure job and moving out to the white folks area in the suburbs, it's not helping the collective at all.
That's right.
It's not. I got a buddy right now. I'm not going to call his name out on the air.
Don't do it.
He said, Doc, he went to the auction. Real good guy. We went to Morgan State University together. He called me up a month ago. He bought a house. I'm talking about wrote a check, okay? $460,000. He got it off the auction. It's worth $750,000. It was a foreclosure. And he works. He make about $160,000 a year. But he also has investments. And he was able to save for years. He went to the auction, wrote a check, $460,000. Got a great house out in Glen Burnie, Maryland. But what is that helping? You get what I'm saying? And he's
thinking about what he could have did with all that money.
$460,000. And I went to the house, and when I say that it's magnificent, it's beautiful, sis, as you can imagine. I'm looking around, and he got a nice spiral wraparound balcony, and it's gorgeous. But what is it? You didn't help anyone but yourself, and the rest of us are living. You get what I'm saying, sis? So, we got it. And to him, that's successful. He makes 6 figures. He has the big house. He has the nice car in the driveway. That is success to him. And so we have to redefine success in a communal sense. When we talk about self-preservation, we have to define it in a communal sense,
right,
and not a personal sense. So anyway, I just want to read the top paragraph before we go to how they do it. Yes, it says that like other ethnic groups that have succeeded in the country, the Italians, Jews, and Koreans, Hispanic merchants primarily rely on relatives to get their businesses off the ground, and the free labor from their wives, children, siblings, parents, and other relatives to carry them until they achieve independent profitability. But above all, the Hispanic merchants and business persons, he's talking about Westchester County, New York, he said, like their ethnic cohorts and counterparts in ethnic communities across America, ultimately depend on the loyal support of their ethnic group. I want to say that again. They ultimately depend on the loyal support. Black folks ain't loyal. And yes, Dr. Maat, I use the word ain't. We ain't loyal. I got a cousin that's listening right now. She's probably in the chat room. She's going to send me a text message. She sold out. Okay, so for her birthday, remember I told y'all the chicken story?
Yes.
And so for 10 extra pieces of chicken, she went to the Arabs, and she actually sent me over there because she PayPal me the money. She wanted me to go to the Arabs and get the damn chicken instead of going to a black-owned company. And I should have put my foot down, but it's not my money. But I should have put my foot down, but it's not my money at the end of the day. But she PayPal me the money. She sent me the hip hop chicken to get some pieces of chicken, and didn't want to go to the black-owned company because we got 10 extra pieces of chicken. Black people ain't loyal. So he says, ultimately, they depend on the loyal support of their ethnic group to provide them with the crucial foundation for entrepreneurial success.
That's right.
So let's go to this on how they do it.
All right now. How they do it. The examples of ethnic enterprise could be multiplied extensively. However, the ones cited here serve to substantiate the fact that ethnicity can be and is used as a base for creating and developing one of the most important sources of social power, economic resources. Needless to say, the ethnically owned and operated businesses referred to above require relatively substantial sums of money to establish in the first place. Since recently arrived immigrants are generally rarely rich or considered creditworthy by banks and other financial establishments, the question arises as to how these entrepreneurs cultivate cash to invest in their fledgling businesses. In this instance, the ethnic card is again played. We will use the Korean approach to cultivating cash as an example of how entrepreneur immigrant ethnic groups develop monetary investment resources from within. While recognizing that other such groups may utilize different methods, we also must recognize that these methods generally involve the use of ethnic resources. I know that's a question that a lot of people ask. Like, how in the world can you come over here with no money, no nothing, and then just all of a sudden just build yourself up like that to have your own entity, your own business? And they do it all the time. So he gives us this example right here. He talks about Choi and his family. He said they lived in Brooklyn and they purchased the grocery store and stuff like that from the Hungarian man. So they go on to tell his story, and basically they talk about how he didn't like to borrow from banks. He said it was dangerous to borrow from banks and stuff like that. So basically, I mean, they just save their money, and that's one thing that they do and are well at. Those foreigners, they will save some money. They will save and they will live. If they have to live very, very meagerly for 5 years in order to be financially stable to where they can live well, then they're willing to sacrifice. A lot of times we aren't willing to make those that sacrifice and live a certain type of way in order to amass the wealth that's needed. I mean, think about even back then, our ancestors who had invented things and done other things and had managed to amass a certain amount of wealth, or you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. It took time. They started from the bottom, so they started off. They didn't have much, but they were willing to take the time and put in what it takes in order to get to where they needed to be.
Right.
Absolutely, sis. He said that his family was his bank. I just want to emphasize.
That's right.
Finances.
Pulling the resources.
I
his
can't get
family, it says
$20
that,
from a family member.
Tell
yeah,
me about it, brother.
he said his family was his bank and that they pulled their money together to come up with $50,000. So his family, his family was the financier, right, of his business endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, a lot of people, and I'm glad that Dr. Amos Wilson dedicated in this book, chapter 3, he dedicated an entire section on the family system and how the family system should operate as the power system for the members that belong to that particular family, right? But what I've noticed in our community is that our families function as a group of individuals with shared consanguinity, right? So we have a group of individuals, shared consanguinity, shared blood relationships, and that's how we function through life. We work, we have our little clan. I might meet up with cousin so and so and auntie so and so, but we function like a bunch of individuals, and then we come together for quote unquote holidays. It might be Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, BS holidays. We come together, and then if someone died, we come together for the funeral, or we might have a little Sunday dinner. But Dr. Amos Wilson in chapter 3, he drove home that is not how a family operates. Yes, families participate in rituals, baby showers, weddings, and celebrations like that, of course. But he said, more importantly, a family is a system that aggregates its resources to meet its vital goals. What are your vital goals? Reproduction.
Reproduction, right? Yeah. You need food, wool, clothing, shelter.
Protection of that food, clothing, and shelter.
That's right.
That's what we have to, that's a family. All right.
Ultimately, the goal of the family is to generate wealth for the following generations to come. We don't understand that because, as you said, we need to redefine success because we have an individualistic view of success. That's why we tell each other to go out and go to school, get a degree as high as you can, and then get a job, because that's what we view as successful, not realizing that what is it that me going to be an attorney or something like that, how does that benefit my children? How does that benefit their children to come? Meanwhile, I've spent $100,000 to get this job when I could have invested that money and time and effort into something else. And even if, I'm not saying that going to school is wrong, but if you're going to go to school, or do certain things, you have to do it with that mindset of what is the bigger picture here. What's my end game?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it makes sense, Sister Alima, if the family had a family business, and maybe two of the kids want to go to school. Well, one go to school for business law to make sure we stay straight.
Yes, brother.
The community stay straight, and then one go to law school maybe for immigration.
That's right.
Make sure. Then you make sure you understand policy, business, and everyone's going to thrive because the business is the best family business.
That's right.
It's like, you got to make it beneficial, and that's one thing we have to look at. We have jobs, and they be so different.
That's right.
What we need. Like, if I need an accountant for my family, I'm going to go outside of the household.
That's right.
I don't have an accountant, or I don't have a lawyer. I got to go outside of the community. So, unfortunately, we have to. They say we got to think more cohesively.
Yes,
absolutely. How is this going to benefit the collective? We just working for the benefit of the collective and not the benefit of ourselves.
Yes,
exactly.
That's what we need to start doing. So look at this. So his family was his bank, sis. So keep on going. Go down the bottom. It said they bankrolled 50,000. So he's going into.
Going into talking about the business and how much it costs to start the business. It says right here, noted that Koreans, they said that they owned about 90% of the fruit and vegetable stores in the city, and that they buy about 40% of the wholesale produce supply daily at this particular location, supply depot. They go on to down the bottom. Of course, he says still another funding source is the money pooling, which they call the K, or the KEH. A concept very affordable. That's like a loan club. They said the K consists of typically 10 to 12 people. Each kicks in the same amount of cash each month to a kitty. It's funny. I've heard this idea by so many different Black people, including my mom, the same model. And it's pretty obvious that it works, but it's like, why can't we freaking do it? I can't even get through reading it because it's like, why is it so hard for us to do that? It just seems like something really simple to do. Like, it really does put I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. But I'm going to keep on. It says each member, including the borrower, keeps up the monthly payments until every member has gotten a loan at least once. By the time the cycle is complete, each member has borrowed and paid back the whole loan, which I think that's cool. As can surmise, Kai, the KYE or K, pronounced K, a holdover from the old country, is a kind of private ethnic group-based banking club where a loan can be had without the usual applications or promissory notes required by the more formal institutions. They are relatively efficient means of raising investment capital in a hostile or unfriendly financial environment controlled by outsiders. However, the Korean facility for raising money and reliability in paying back loans has gained increasingly respect from established bankers who are discovering a lucrative new loan market in the Korean community. So basically, what they're saying is they do this so that they don't have to go to outsiders to borrow money. So and it also helps to keep down the amount of debt because they're paying into a pool. They're paying into amount of money every month. So therefore they can pull from that funds, you know what I mean, and then replace it when they need to, as opposed to going to an outsider. And now I have this money, but now I'm paying a monthly payment plus interest so I can give this money back to these foreigners. And plus, how is me getting this loan benefiting my community? So if I am going to get a loan, I'm going to deal with this type of banking system, that's in-house so that I can benefit my own. And ultimately, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And then he mentions another funding source that they utilize. He said they launder money.
Right.
He said at the bottom of they launder money.
Yeah.
They launder it. They said they launder it by investing in small business enterprise. So you got folks over in China that are sending some money over here to clean it on up, right?
Exactly.
They launder the money. And he says, however, the bulk of their capitalization comes from intragroup, and familial sources. All right. So let's roll with Insider's Edge and Special Notes. Who is it on?
That's on
Brother T.
Yeah, 357. Insider's Edge and Special Niches. Various enterprise and immigrant groups work in developing specialized niches in localized economies. By these means, they may come to virtually monopolize certain business or professions and slowly change the original commercial, political, and cultural makeup of the economic field and the city. These ethnically based quasi-monopolies, upon reaching critical mass in a particular economic niche, tend to become self-generating, creating a snowball effect, gathering labor from the ethnic group and expanding exponentially. The New York Times in December 2nd, 1992, and some, as noted by the Times, the common thread linking all immigrant work niches is the inside edge on the profession, recruiting through the ethnic network in the most efficient way employer gets labor. Wow. What are you saying, sister?
No, I was saying we were just talking about that, how they come in and dominate a particular market. So they adopt these niches. And see, this is what they did in Baltimore. This is how they were able to take over the nail salon. So what they used to do was come into the neighborhood. They would open up a nail salon and they would hire all the black women in the neighborhood. And when they learned how to paint black females, our nails and our toes and all of that, when they learned that from watching the black women, they fired all of them. They did it at Emerson Village Shopping Center, fired all the black girls, and then brought in their people and started training their people. And then eventually all of the nail salons became owned by the Vietnamese. But what they did, they watched us, they studied us, they learned our trade, and then fired us and brought in their people.
Do y'all notice when you go to, if you go to these a lot of foreign businesses, think foreign restaurants, even nail shops, they are very particular of not even having their things that they use labeled. So like, say the nail shops, for instance, all their products are like in just plain bottles. You know what I mean? It's almost like they don't even want you to know what products they're using, so you can try to like get in on their plug. And I noticed that, and it doesn't matter what state I was in. I noticed that, and it's even the same especially when I think a lot of Chinese spots. When I used to eat at a lot of Chinese spots, it was like that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing was labeled whatsoever. So aside from the menu, that's pretty much all you knew. You don't know nothing about nothing.
Wow, that's true. I can peep that out next time. The funny thing is this: have you ever go into a community like you see the nail shops, and you see all Asians or Filipinos, but it looks funny. It's a shame though. It looks kind of funny to see a black nail shop.
It does.
I'm just saying because I live in a community that I've seen a couple maybe years ago, but now I'm so used to seeing Asians in our community or Filipinos in our communities doing these things. When I saw a young lady start up a nail salon, I was like, wow, that's something.
That's right.
You know, it's amazing because your mind gets conditioned.
It does. We get so conditioned that we will go to the Arabs to buy chicken, and we know damn well that black people cook the best chicken.
Right.
But we're so conditioned to supporting them that we'll go right past the black neighborhood, the black restaurant, you know, that no one really knows about. And then we'll go to the Arab restaurant that everybody go to.
Yeah, that is true. All right, so we come down to page 330. Sorry.
338.
338.
338, but I need you to read this paragraph that says the snowballing success of
yes, I got this too.
Okay,
that was a very powerful paragraph. Yes, very powerful.
So the Times further elaborates the ethnic-based success of the Koreans when it's noted. And this passage here says the snowballing success of Korean grocers is due in part to an extensive and well-organized support group. The snowballing success of Korean grocers is due in part to an extensive and well-organized support group.
Yes.
Now, I'm just going to stop there for 1 second. How do you think they all agreed with it? Do you think it's in their community centers? Is it before they touch down here in North America? When do you think that they agree to this dynamic?
It's in their upbringing as a youth. It's in their upbringing as a child. It's in the dynamic. It's ingrained in their culture. That's why it's not something that has to be reiterated. It's not something that has to be taught. It's something that's ingrained in them. So by the time they're adult, they already know what it is.
Right. It's culture, bro.
I'm just saying. You said it started when he was young.
That's right, brother.
New arrivals can rely on a 500-page Korean business directory. A 500
pages, brother. Wow.
Korean business directory.
Wow.
As well as dozens of business groups, including the Korean Greengrocer Association. When Black residents of Flatbush, Brooklyn organized a boycott of the Korean grocers in 1990, for instance, fellow Korean grocers put up money to help the stores remain in business. They're like, you're not putting them out of business.
That's right. Exactly.
I'm gonna come save them and front them the money.
Exactly.
Right. You thought you were slick by saying you're gonna help close us down, but we're not gonna do it.
We're not gonna do it.
That's crazy.
That's right.
Where's the power base at?
That's right, brother.
Wow. The Koreans use extensive ethnic social kinship and business association networks is duplicated to significant degrees by other immigrant groups. So in a multi-ethnic nation such as the United States, ethnic divisions are reflected in ethnic differences in social status, economic well-being, wealth, and political power. These differences do not always accord with the ethnic differences in population size, aggregate, earned, or expendable income, language, and any other number of demographic characteristics thought at first to be important to this regard. So it doesn't matter what size.
It doesn't matter.
As we saw earlier in the pages, that the Afghan came here to start Kennedy Chicken. There's only 4,000 of them in Brooklyn. So it doesn't matter what size, they have the same formula. And what's that formula again, Dr. Maat?
You said the same formula, bro.
The same formula. And what's that formula again for the listeners?
Go into the community,
Mm-hmm.
go into the poor areas, the dilapidating communities,
Right.
buy your property, move your people in, build businesses, buy from each other.
Build
Simple
needed
formula.
businesses. Yes, yes.
Simple formula. Simple formula.
Wow. So as we go on from 338, I'm going down to the bottom of 338. We have seen that this is indeed the case for the immigrant groups we have just discussed. Nominally disadvantaged ethnic groups, if they possess strong or at least functional, cultural, and effective ties, can utilize the ethno-cultural organization and solidarity to subvert or transform the nature of the economy or market for their own benefit. Organized ethnic groups tend to act in ways that maximize the benefits and advantages that flow to the group. So this is what you said, Dr. Maat.
I have that underlined.
Me too.
Right.
Me too, sis.
So let's go down to, you want to, anyone want to say anything on that? Put any more points?
I just want to end with what he said. I put Black Power next to it on page at the top of page 339. He said, as long as the African American community
right there
as a mere conglomeration of individuals, each pursuing his own individual needs, wants, and actions without regard for their negative outcome relative to the status, well-being, and power for his group, without the concern for broadening his ethnic affiliations and networks and strengthening his ethnic interconnectedness, it shall suffer unnecessarily low status, poverty, social problems, and powerlessness. And that's a fact.
That's our current condition.
Absolutely. As long as we keep on moving about and saying, I'm doing me, I'm not worried about anybody else, we will forever be in this perpetual cycle of ignorance and poverty.
That's right.
And powerlessness. So we have to conceive of ourselves every morning when I get my son up, and he'll be in here in a sec, Jalen. I'm gonna have him recite what I have him every morning. I say, what is your job, son? He says, my job is to listen, learn, and lead. He said, don't be a follower, be a leader. He says, I am a member. He said, what is it, T? I'm a member of my African race. He said, I'm starting to lose it.
You're the one taught him.
He's gonna come in here and say it and rattle it off, but he says, and he ends with saying, I am an extension of my African race. So he understands that he is a part of a collective. It's not just him, it's us. But he's gonna get me. When he come in here, I'm gonna have him say it live for you guys. But I have him say that every morning we had to start thinking communally. You know, we had to stop thinking of, as I was explaining I was building with a sister the other day, and she just had a baby. And the family is excited about having the baby. It's life. So, you get excited when life comes into the family and you want to celebrate that. But unfortunately, this little boy is born into a bad situation. His father is married with 2 kids, already. And he's married to, he's born to a mother, a woman that's, living at home with her mom and siblings. So, is that really, again, I always celebrate life, when it comes into the family, because, Africans believe that, when life returns, it's an ancestor returning, you know what I mean? But it's, I always tell people that your decisions affect everybody else. So she decided to do that. Now this baby is born into a bad situation. I'll just say that without airing out all of her business on the air. But we got to start thinking about the decisions that we make and how they're going to affect our family, how they affect our community at large. You get what I'm saying? I tell folks all the time, when you have babies, that's not a personal thing. That's a communal thing, because how you raise that child is going to affect the community.
That's right.
So yes, I am concerned about that Black baby that lives next door to me. Yes, I am concerned about those Black children who live in my neighborhood and even beyond my neighborhood. So we look at our children as a personal thing, but it's a communal thing. Even marriage, I had a talk with a young lady, and I said, marriage is a communal decision. We sit here and say, I want to marry him because he makes me feel good, or I want to marry her because she makes me feel good. Not understanding that when you unite, with a man or a woman, you're aggregating families, you're combining families. So this is a communal event. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of things we've been conditioned to conceive of as personal decisions are really communal decisions. And so we got to go back through, sis, and really do some reprogramming of our minds, the way we think.
I agree.
So I just wanted to say that. I know I kind of ran, but I just wanted to say that.
Well, I agree, sis.
So let's move on to African immigrants.
African immigrants.
Right,
Yeah.
339.
African immigrants. Economics is embedded in culture. A culture is in good part an economic system, a system which produces and allocates economic resources according to social relations, structure, values, and beliefs which characterize it. Ultimately, it is culture, not racial genetics, which determines economic inputs, outputs, and distribution. The entrepreneurial success stories of African immigrants, stories which rival those of other immigrant groups, corroborate our contentions. And they go on to start talking about the Nigerians, and they give a particular story about a brother named Chris Chidemi or something like that. And they're talking about the restaurant that he started up. And basically, it's another example, once again, of group ethnic economics and pooling your resources together, setting up a sort of bank structure so that everyone can thrive off of. Make sure that not one person is left behind. You know that if you get put on, then you put your fellow man on. They say they have a saying. It means I can't pronounce it what it means in Igbo, but it says let nobody leave his brother behind. Association. Right. So that's the associate. That's the mindset that they have. You know what I'm saying? So if I have a job, then my brother has a job too. Basically.
And since that goes back to culture,
it does.
Like African culture and consciousness and identity play in economic achievement.
Yes, it does.
So it's a culture. Even when he began the subsection, he said economics is embedded in culture. It is your culture that teaches you how to spend your money and with whom you spend your money.
That's right, sis.
It goes down to your culture. So let's go, sis. I'm with it. I'm fine to talk about stuff like this.
That's right, but it's true. And so they basically they go continue on and they talk more about the businesses that are founded by Nigerians. Now we're on page 341 and we're here at the bottom, family. And it says, we consider ourselves African Americans too, talking about the Nigerians. And our clientele is 90% African American. She says, blah, 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 blah. We're Igbos first. They call us the Jews of Africa. So she's just saying that even though they're African American, they're Africans just like we are Africans. And she said they do business with African Americans, of course, but culturally, the Igbo culture and the way that they roll, she says that comes first. You know what I'm saying? So it shows that, as they say, your culture is not necessarily structured in a racial type of thing. It's more of a upbringing and structure in the way that you think. So to go on, we're still on 341 here. The prospects for repeating these immigrant success stories are promising. This spring is set in what we call the country's first diversity lottery. The State Department assigned more than a third of 54,000 immigrant visas. It offers each year to applicants from Africa, the most visas offered to any region in the world. So, they get visas and they're able to come over here and work and stuff like that. And so while they're here, they make sure they take advantage of it. And they make sure that they link up with other Nigerians or of course, Senegalese or whoever else that is their culture. They find a specific area in whatever state. They link up, they teach each other what they need to do in order to become successful, and then that's what they do. So they go on to talk about the Senegalese here in the next section. In the middle of the paragraph, it says the Senegalese, like the Nigerians and many other Africans, have century-old traditions of trading. Unlike African Americans, these traditions were not mortally impaired by racial and cultural oppression. These traditions and their cultural adjuncts, ethnic identity and solidarity, permit them to prosper in the relatively freer economic markets of the United States and to ably exploit their relatively non-competitive and receptive markets within the Black inner city of the country. So basically they're saying that they still operate in the same manner in that they trade mostly with each other. So, they'll do business with everyone else. But as far as like bartering and things like that, in order to, I guess, save use the least amount of resources, so to speak, and not have to go elsewise, they do that with one another. Anybody want to join in, or we can go on at 342?
Or you want 342?
Did you mention, sis, that they also, how the Asians have the concept, I think it's called K or Kai or whatever.
Oh yeah, we talked about K.
Okay, no, did we mention that the Africans have something called susus, or is it twing? And oh, right here.
No, he didn't say the actual word, but I did touch on that they have a similar system of the way that they set it up and barter and the banks and the communal bank and stuff. So yeah.
All right, let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll.
All right. So page 343 here. There at the top, they're talking about the peddlers. Here they talk about the early peddlers in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see here. They talk about the peddlers and how they made up most of the ghettos and they helped to thrive. And they were from Africa, a lot of them. We go on here, middle of the page. That is general ethnic identity and solidarity are used to garner the financial and material wherewithal to establish and support various enterprises. The services, wealth, and human capital possessed by the middle and upper class who are educated and highly skilled members of their community are recruited in order to help finance, service, manage, and ensure the economic prospects of the ethnic group as a whole. So they're saying that this is one of the key things with the Koreans and also Senegalese and other people, that they make sure that they get their best of the best. That's who they recruit, and basically put them to work in order to help them benefit, put in what needs to be put in order to benefit the group as a whole. Because at the end of the day, it's always about benefits for everyone and not just benefits for yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, where are we here? That's all I had on 342. I don't know if anyone else had anything.
No. You're on page 342, sis, or 343?
343 now at the top.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And like you said, he's being repetitive at this point,
Right. He's giving us a lot, just different examples, but it's pretty much the same model. So he's basically trying to show us that how size doesn't matter. And it's just all about your mindset and your cultural way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And your ethnic, the way that you should move within your ethnic group, basically is what Baba is trying to reiterate to us. The last paragraph here on 343, well, next to the last, at the top. As discussed earlier, the Senegalese finance their business enterprises through utilizing their traditional financial network, the tontine. Like so many other immigrant groups, the entrepreneurial success of the Senegalese is founded on a highly developed sense of ethnic identity and solidarity, a will to succeed, and an informal or traditional system for raising finance capital. All right, so now we're moving into Black American racial solidarity and economic development. This is I think it's our last chapter, our last section of the night.
Yeah. Yep. So bear with us, family. Bear with us. We only have about 4 or 5 pages left.
Right.
And we knock out this section and then we're going to close out. So bear with us, family. Bear with us. And a brother asked a question in the chat room. I want to make sure that we answer his question. I want to get through. Brother, let me scroll up. There was a brother in the chat room here. He asked, but he basically was saying, he was asking if we deem certain degrees and trades, if we could list some trades. Here it is. Dr. Maat, are there some degrees or trades you feel are more in demand than others and that would be most helpful today? So Brother Trap Media, I definitely want to answer your question. Let's get through. We want to get through these last 4 or 5 pages, and then I'll let I'll answer it, and I'll let the panel, of course, answer your question. But very, very good question, brother. Very good question.
All right, so we're on page of what, 343?
Yeah, go ahead, Brother T. Black American racial solidarity.
Got you. 343, Black American racial solidarity, economic development. In our discussion of the racial solidarity of immigrant groups and economic growth and opportunities engenders for them, we do not wish to leave the impression that Black Americans are not capable of or have not experienced racial solidarity and its associated economic outcomes. Racial solidarity and self-help have a lengthy history in the Black American community and were particularly intense in the years following Reconstruction. It is no coincidence that this period was also characterized by heavy emphasis on economic development and activity as major means of solving the economic and social problems confronting the recently emancipated Black community. It was August Meir in 1966 informs us that the Negro Convention of the late 1870s also placed their strongest emphasis on racial solidarity, self-help, and economic advancement. He goes on to intimate that the delegates, many of them, of the most distinguished leaders in the Negro community, were more concerned with self-help and economic development than with the decline of political and civil rights. Meir takes note of John Wesley Cromwell's advice to the Black American community as editor of the People's Advocate, that in the name of the racial patriotism, Blacks should award their work to colored men even where whites were performing more cheaply in order to build up colored tradesmen to the point where they could compete with whites.
Wow.
So, wow, okay.
Wow.
Let me see. I didn't highlight anything on 344. Let me see. Has anyone said anything on 344 that they wanted to bring out before I start?
I had highlighted some things, but I feel like they're reiterations.
Right. Okay.
Just basically going back over and, talking about racial solidarity and giving examples of when we had it.
Okay. Which one you want? Did you highlight? Okay, I'll read that one.
Where the high tide.
Okay, let's emphasize on that. The high tide of the Black American entrepreneurialism and the operational establishment of corporate cities, industries, small business and shops, professional services, schools and universities, as well as high level of inventions by Black inventors, reflected the emphasis of the Black pride dating from the failure of Reconstruction to the advent of Marcus Garvey in the 1920s. Evidence of this phenomenon was still fairly strong in many areas up until the late 1950s and early 1960s. A perusal of our review of Black entrepreneurial history in the following chapter will substantiate our claims relative to the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
How did that strike you, Sister Alima?
It's like he was saying that at one point we had this great moment of where we had our Black pride and we had racial solidarity, it seems,
Right.
And then over time, things started to trickle over. Things started to dissipate. As we know, for various reasons.
And when he stressed it,
I was going to say our culture
at the time of the Marcus Garvey movement.
Yes.
Advent to the Black. How did that, Dr. Maat, how did that hit you?
You said what happened, bro?
From that time, it says when it mentioned after the Reconstruction, advent of the Marcus Garvey movement. Basically that the 1920s when Marcus Garvey was prevalent here in the Americas, and it was pushing Black pride, Black business,
right.
Us going back to Africa. How did you think that dissipated over the years? What could have dissipated that movement over the years, or that feeling of us coming together, solidarity? Why?
I think culture and values changed. You get what I'm saying? Like I listen to stories, that my mom tells me about the way, my grandparents did things. And I'm like, wow, like they had a set of values. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to say that our values are totally, dissipated, or they're just not the same. But there's certain things that we value back then that we no longer value. You get what I'm saying? We value pride and dignity. My mother, I saw a picture of my father and his siblings, and it was 7 of them. Matter of fact, I have it. Oh, it's on my bookshelf. 7 of them. My grandma and my grandpa. We talking about 19. My father was a little boy. So we're looking at the early 1950s. It's a black and white photo. Poor family. But when they came out of the house,
dress
sharp as a tack. You would never think that they were poor. Why? Because they value pride. They value pride. They value dignity. It was pride in the way you looked. It was pride in the way you spoke. It was pride. These are the things that they value. We don't value that. People come out of the house. Women come out of the house, hair, with the shower cap on. We walking through the supermarket with pajamas on, and I mean, our values have changed. Our culture and our values have changed.
I think a lot of it also too stem from fear, because if you think about it, back at that time when they say the time span that I think that they just mentioned from the 20s to the 60s,
20s.
and I think about all of the great Black leaders that emerged and all of them that were killed within that time span.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the dissension in the Black Pride movement and the race solidarity, I think a lot of it was fear, because it was like, okay, every time we get a Black leader, they gun him down, they kill him. So at that point, it was like, who's going to keep being that one to jump up and say, okay, well, I'll take that opportunity to see if maybe they'll kill me next. So I think that I really believe that a lot of that's what happened. And they realized that that's what they had to do. They had to kill our leaders in order to instill that sense of fear within us. Because if you think about it historically, just about any place, when you kill a people's leader, you capture the people.
Hey, just think about it. Now, you hit the nail on the head with that, Sister Alima.
Yes, she did.
When you say the fear, I would think after the 60s, after the killing of Martin, Malcolm, when the kill, then also the stopping of the revolutionary movement of the Black Panthers fight the power movement.
Yeah.
Everything after that was said, can we just get along?
That's right.
Can we just be part of the program?
That's right.
Every movement after that was, hey, I just want to do what you do.
That's right.
Allow me to sit at the table. Allow me to be at the job. I don't want to fight no more.
That's right.
the fight came out of us.
That's right.
Because, like you said, we saw people who were peaceful get killed. We saw people who were revolutionary get killed.
Right.
And all we thought was the gray. Let's stay in the gray. So you're absolutely right. That changes a whole bunch of things. You don't tell your kids to go out and change things. You just go out and tell your kids, come home safe.
That's right.
So the mentality changed. We don't build that solidarity. Think about your community first. Think about how you can get out this community. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think that fear has something to do with it. I agree with that. What you think about that?
And also, like she said, the fear, with them murdering our leaders, and then also fearing incarceration.
That's right.
A lot of people, you got people like, you got Matulu
Shakur, yeah.
Mumia, Sundiata Kobe, that brother still locked down. So you got brothers and sisters, man, that weren't as fortunate as Assata Shakur to get broken out of prison. A lot of them have been in prison, for 30 years. So
the system.
The assassination of our leaders, also the incarceration of our political activists. And so I agree with that. And then over time, the culture changed. Of course, if the culture changed, so does the values. Because remember, values are a subset. Values, a value system is a subsystem, is a cultural subsystem. So if the culture is changing, so will the values tend to change.
And our culture, our whole cultural dynamic, in my opinion, changed a lot when we introduced the whole Black culture. We separated ourselves from our African identities to the point so much now that where people think that Black is a race. And they think that white is a race. Like, no, you're an African. You know what I mean? Black is a title that was given to you to demean you because, it was Black and you can't see through it and it's dark and it's bad and blah, blah, blah. That's not a race.
That's not.
So I just had to throw that in there. I think that, our culture is a Black culture. We don't live in an African culture. We have a Black culture.
Right. Yeah. I watched something on YouTube and it kind of disturbed me, but what the person who put the video together was saying was when Africans came off the shore to America, it was the plan from whites to create another race. And the mindsets that we see today, when you see them far from Afrocentric or African-minded, you wonder if that was established. You wonder if that was the mission was completed, because we are some so far removed from family, so far removed of our African culture. You wonder if they succeeded in changing some of the minds and whitewashed them.
That's right.
And the mindset, hey, you may come to some brothers and sisters who don't want to hear nothing we're saying right now. You know, who wouldn't understand what the ancestor Amos Wilson has put together in this book to remedy the issues.
That's
So
right.
it's something. We left off at 345, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, immigration in the African American community. It's the last section here, family.
Okay. In addition to the generally negative influence on the economic prospects of the African American community, currently brought on by radical structural changes in both the national and global economy on the same prospects, the contemporary influence of waves of immigrants to the U.S. has been far from benign. This is true today as in the past, particularly since the periods between 1970, 1980, and 90, which saw the influx of some 6.25 and 8.7 million immigrants, respectively. Business Week on July 13th, 1992, reports that in 1980 alone, a stunning 8.7 million people poured into the United States, matching the great immigration decade in 1900 and 1910. It goes on to intimate that the newcomers compete for jobs with Americans, particularly with the less skilled, which includes the largest segment of Black workers. Furthermore, it reports the U.S. is reaping a bonanza of highly educated foreigners. In the 1980s alone, an unprecedented 1.5 million college-educated immigrants joined the U.S. workforce. More and more Americans' high-tech industries, from semiconductors to biotechnology, are depending on immigrant scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs to remain competitive. And its immigrants linked to their old countries are boosting U.S. exports to such a fast-growing regions as Asia and Latin America. And we experiencing that today, family, on so many pages, or so many words. We're experiencing the same thing today when it comes down to immigration and fear of not having jobs for the unemployed here. And you talk about skills. You're talking about basically some are coming from other countries already college educated, and ready to fill in the positions.
That's right.
And as tricky as our government is, they have used our African brothers and sisters and filling in positions that we would have filled in if we had the qualification. So it's kind of unlikely that unfair that they're filling the quota of putting Blacks in, but we may be moved out. And now that gives us a bad taste on our brothers and sisters. But that's just how the way the world's going right now.
That's right.
Anyone want to pick up from 346?
No, I didn't really want to add on nothing. That was our
Okay.
last section. So.
All right. And the next section would be what we would start off from 346, the costs and benefits of immigration.
Right. We're gonna start there next week.
Okay.
Oh, so we end this, sis? Yeah,
that's it. I don't because they don't need to go to 349 because that wouldn't be completing the whole section.
Absolutely. Before we get out of here, because folks start clicking out. Seems like we got a few folks. Before we get out of here, Sister Alima, first of all, we got to start practicing group economics, family. We had to start practicing group economics. We have choices, but remember, we got to answer brother. What was the brother's name, Sister Alima? You know what I'm talking about?
I forgot.
Had a question.
He was
And he
asking
asked,
about what type of businesses, what type of trades.
yes, he asked, what type of trades do we deem important? Sis, I want to begin. We can all go through and list what we, deem important. You know me, I'm going to talk about STEM. I'm a STEM person. I'm an engineer. That's what I do. I recommend getting our children and getting ourselves and our children involved in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm over at Morgan every week. And you know who's coming over to Morgan now? A lot of the people from Saudi Arabia, a lot of the Arabs.
That's what they do.
And a lot of Asians are coming over, and they are attending HBCUs. After a while, Sister Alima, there won't be a such thing as a HBCU.
No,
and if there is, if it is, the HBCU seats will be filled with foreigners. All right. I'm there in Morgan. I see it every day. We do have a strong population of Nigerian brothers and sisters, and I love that. We do have that, but there are a lot of Asians and Arabs that are pursuing STEM programs. So, brother, you say, Dr. Maat, what do you recommend? I recommend getting yourself and ourselves and people in our family involved in STEM. STEM, I also recommend, business, but not just a business degree, because 80% of us come out of college. They say 80% of those degrees are business. But I'm talking about things like accounting, things like bookkeeping, real estate, stuff like that. That's very important. What else would you say, sis? What else would you say? I say business and STEM. What else? What other trades would you deem important? We definitely need plumbers. We definitely need
I was just about to say that. Plumbers, electricians,
carpenters.
We need people to go into horticulture. We need people to learn how to plant and teach us how to cultivate the land, and because that's going to be important. We definitely do, of course, need people, like you said, to go into business. But I mean, on the more broader end, we need people, and we need lawyers, and we need doctors. You know what I mean? We need orthodontists, and we need police officers, and we need all of these different types of trades and different types of things that, although they are jobs in the collective scope, they're all different types of jobs that will help build a community and a community base. So and definitely things that areas I would say that we feel that maybe we don't receive enough fair treatment. It's important to invest and get trades in those type of areas so we can have more of our own self-representation. Because especially entities in which we know we have to deal in, then to have our own self, like in the banking industry, for instance, when it comes to getting loans and things like that, someone needs to, want to go into the banking industry so that we can, when we need those loans and things like that, and we know that we qualify, we won't be discarded and looked over simply because of the color of our skin. If we have our own people who have, are in that field that can look out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with everything that's been said. I definitely agree with having our lawyers, our doctors, also you, Dr. Maat, but understanding everything in STEM. I was a biology major in college, and I became a histotechnologist working in laboratories. But I wish I was able to do carpentry. I wish I was able to do plumbing. I wish I was able to put a roof, on a home. Also, I wish I was able to do, like I said, do the land, do landscaping. Because I always ask the simple question: where are our Black developers for our communities?
That's right.
You have gentrification going on city to city. Where are the Black developers? Where are the Black construction companies?
That's right.
Where are the Black business lawyers that will help support and protect our businesses as we grow them? Where are the health professionals, the holistic approach? Also, where are the Black doctors, nurses for our own hospitals? So many things that we need in our community that's out there. Where are our auto mechanics? These are things that we need. We don't want to put those jobs and say, hey, them jobs are beneath us. we need all of those in our communities in order for our community to be strong. So they're my suggestions. And also, because I know technology is growing and so many things out there that our community does not look at, I'm a big proponent of coding. We must learn coding.
I agree, brother.
Why? Because this technology that's coming in, this blockchain technology, is being implemented in every business that's happening now. In banking, it's being used in the medical field. Blockchain technology is coding. So, and I looked like 2 weeks ago, the asking salary for a person in blockchain technology is $120,000 to $240,000 a year.
Woo.
So this is something that we can look into, along with STEM, along with carpentry, building homes, plumbing. I think we need it all. Anything to help build a community and build a strong community, and we can use your service and only your service as being a person of color, an African, we need it. So I think that would be perfect.
I agree.
I agree, brother. I agree. So let me go ahead, Sister Alima. Show the people what products they can buy, sis.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to pull up the website again, family, but y'all can go to www.lililapoetespeaks.com. That's where you can get the pick up the links every week. That must be Dr. Maat. That's where you can pick up the links every week, family, to join us here on the panel. Or if you would just like to hang out in the discussion group, you can do that as well. You can go over to the marketplace. Going to be adding some new things to the marketplace soon, so I'm excited about that. And family, if you're watching, if you want to have your products sold on the website, then just hit me up and let me know. It's just a 99-cent processing fee to have your per sale, but let me know. We can do this thing together. See, Dr. Maat has it pulled up. You can get some mail track. You can get your copy. We might have a couple left, I think, right, sis?
Oh, yeah.
For Black Power. You can get that. You can get the bundle. Or you can pick up the poetry novel, which I thought it was on sale, but maybe it's not on sale. I need to fix that. Yeah, family, but oh, Lord. Once again, LiliLaPoetespeaks.com. And thank you guys for joining us. Peace and love.
Peace and love, family. On my Facebook page, I've been going off. I know that folks are spending money for Christmas and Kwanzaa and all of that. And so I've been just posting. You can go to my page, Deanna Bailey. You can see that I put up a post today about Freedom Paper Company. So you can go to freedompaper.com to purchase. This is a picture of Brother Amos. I met this brother a few times. Very good brother. Very, very good brother. All about the community. Very well connected. I'll say that. But I mean, support, family. Support. You can go to my page. Get this. You look at this. I have Tide. I'm going to say Tide. True. I put Black on manufactured. Tide who? Right? So I put up, their website, thetrueproducts.com. And then I've also put up Core Oil. I use this in my household, Core Oil, which is another, is a Black-owned toothbrush company, okay? So we don't have to keep on buying from folks, all right? Oh, my goodness. I have, let me see. I'm trying to think what else. I'm trying to go through, trying to get to my older posts where I advertise little Aaron Learns About Africa. And oh, here we go. I have my sister book right here. We just talked about that, Perceptions of a Misplaced African. All right. I posted her. I posted the Black History cards, Volume 1 and Volume 2. This will be a great Christmas and Kwanzaa gift. All right. The Black History flashcards. I own Volume 1. I don't have Volume 2 yet. All right. Then we also have, look at this, books by Angela Freeman. All right. You can go to her website and check out Angela Freeman. All right. We also have, and I'm going to stop because Sister Alima always say, Dr. Maat, you get the mic and keep going on and on. You got Bino and Fino for the baby. You got Bino and Fino. You got their 2 films. And look at that, a beautiful map of Africa. You got, African dolls, right? You got Bino and Fino. Please support them. Look at this. Aaron Knows About Africa. You get what I'm saying? Support them. A book by Naomi H. Bradley, right? And Benjamin Inga. So So support them. Support, what was that? Oh, support Kid Positive. Tell Me Who I Am. Tell Me Who I Am was the they were our motivation. They actually motivated, they were our inspiration for Meltrek. Love the film. It was produced in 1998. The brother just digitized the film, so it looks up to date. Please support them. They have a wonderful activity book to go along with it. Books by author Akua Agassi. She has books on Marcus Garvey, Madam C.J. Walker, Queen Nzinga. Beautiful books. Book about Imhotep. Support that sister, all right? So I know I didn't gave everybody a shout out except for myself. Head over to edanimeproductions.com, family. Support the Meltrek Project. Please visit our store. We have apparel, we have accessories, we have books. Most importantly, I love our DVDs, these films. We have Meltrek Episode 1 and Meltrek Episode 2 available. All right, because we got to start taking control of what our children see. All right, we got to take control of what, the images that are being projected, and impregnated and imprinted in the minds of our babies. So we got to control this stuff, okay? So head on over to Ed Anime Productions, get your copies of Meltrek. Peace. I love you, and I look forward to our discussion next week.
Awesome.
Bye, family.
Goodbye, family. Before I leave, I'm gonna read what I saw on Sister Alima's posters a couple hours ago. The African community, despite its long tradition of sharing with all strangers who enter its gates, must face up to the fact that it does not owe non-Africans a living at the expense of its own economic vitality. The Black community simply cannot support itself and everybody else at the same time.
Right.
Dr. Amos Wilson, Blueprint for Black Power, page 327. Have a good night, family. Peace and Black Power.
Peace and power, brother.
Sister Lehman, I want to let folks know when we put out products, right, we don't just put them up, and say get it and we don't have it.
That's
so
right.
We got it. Support this sister, man. Support the sister, support the panel. We love you. Peace and power.
Peace and power.